Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tidalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Manupetya Apetya Krityam Rapaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Utriti Tan Maitaya Taravo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Murimanatusmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptas Chakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Brinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Okay, so we're going to continue hearing the beautiful Krsna book about the advent of Lord Krishna, and we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Leda Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad, Asto Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Leda Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad, Asto Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and our exalted Rupana Guru Varga and all assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. So we left off after describing the situation. Now Vasudeva and Devaki are imprisoned. All of their previous children, 6 sons, have been killed by Kamsa just as they were born. The 7th, Lord Sankarshan, Baladev, appeared to be a miscarriage, but by Krishna's desire and the agency of Yogamaya, he was transferred to the womb of Rohini. Now Krishna is appeared in the mind, in the purified heart of Sri Vasudeva, and Vasudeva, by his meditation, transferred this form of the Lord into the heart of Devaki, into her womb, actually. And Srila Prabhupada made the point, there's no seminal birth with Sri Krishna. His body is eternal, Satchidananda Vigraha. It's not created by a combination of material elements, and this is all made very clear. Sometimes we read in different scriptural histories, other traditions, of virgin births, right? But they have no description or understanding how that may or may not be. It's stated, but it's not explained. Here it's explained very beautifully. Now we're going to hear the prayers of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, other demigods, Narad, sages, as they describe the characteristics, the qualities, the glories of that personality within the womb of Devaki. And again, this is quite important because this is going to precede his birth and then all the pastimes that we're going to hear about. And, just as in the Bhagavad Gita, when after seeing the universal form, Arjuna offers so many prayers to the Lord, describing that, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, that he's the Supreme Lord. But not only I say that, but all the great sages like Narada and others say the same thing. So here, by including these statements of these great personalities, we're getting more evidence and more authority for for substantiating the identity of Sri Krishna as the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, taking birth for extraordinary purposes. So, let's hear this. At that time, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narad, and followed by many other demigods, invisibly appeared in the house of Kamsa. They began to pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in select verses, which are very pleasing to the devotees and which award fulfillment of their desires. The first words they spoke acclaimed that the Lord is true to his vow. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna descends to this material world just to protect the pious and destroy the impious. That is his vow. The demigods could understand that the Lord had taken his residence within the womb of Devaki to fulfill his vow. And they were very glad that the Lord was appearing in order to fulfill his mission. So that which he had promised to the demigods and Lord Brahma when they had gone to the ocean of milk on the shore on behalf of Bhumi Devi, the goddess of this earth, the predominating deity, now indeed he's appeared. And Srila Prabhupada references the Bhagavad Gita verse, right? Parittaranaya sarunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma sangstarpanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Protecting the devotees and annihilating miscreants. Right? And again, all these verses can be seen according to the way in one worships the Lord and the way in which one will exchange loving pastimes. It's obvious on the battlefield of Kurukshetra when Krishna is speaking, I've come to protect my devotees like you Pandavas. I'm going to kill these demons like these Kauravas, as so many others I've killed. But in Braj, how is he protecting his devotees? Of course there are demons there, but he's protecting them, from the pains of separation, right? He's protecting them by giving them the most extraordinary and beautiful exchanges of love, displaying that to the entire world, right? So the demigods are stating this, and then the demigods addressed the Lord as Satyam Param, or the Supreme Absolute Truth. This is how the Srimad Bhagavatam begins also. In the first verse of the Bhagavatam, it ends, Satyam Param Dhimahi. Right? The Bhagavatam, in the very beginning, now again here, and also in the 12th canto, the same kind of ending, the identity of the Supreme Lord. Satyam Param. Satyam means the truth, and Param means the highest. Right? Everyone is searching after the truth. That is the philosophical way of life. The demigods give information that the Supreme Absolute Truth is Krishna. One who becomes fully Krishna conscious can attain the Absolute Truth. Krishna is the Absolute Truth because, unlike relative truth, he is truth in all three phases of eternal time. Time is divided into past, present, and future. Krishna is truth always, past, present, and future. In the material world, everything is being controlled by supreme time in the course of past, present, and future. But before the creation, Krishna was existing, and when there is creation, everything is resting in Krishna. And when this creation is finished, Krishna will remain. Therefore, he is the absolute truth in all circumstances. Right, remember when we were reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Lord Balaram, the same point was brought up, and the idea of time, it has its three phases under the influence of the modes of material nature, right? Creation is a instigated or stimulated by Rajagun. Destruction, which is the ending, is stimulated by Tamagun, and maintenance, or the present, is stimulated by or preserved by Sattvagun. And so because there are no modes of material nature in the spiritual realm, there are no influences on time to create this sense of phases. For us, we always live in what we consider to be the present, right? But what is the present? I mean, in an instant, it's no longer the present. It's the past. It's happened. It's gone, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, forget the past that sleeps, right? It's gone. It's forever. And the future is just a concept, a hope, a dream, whatever, right? In that sense, we're tasting what eternal time is, in the sense that in the spiritual world, nothing is destroyed, right? And that past activities can be fully experienced again. When we read Gopal Champu, we hear the narrations given by Snigdhakant and Madhukant, and while they're speaking these pastimes of Sri Krishna to the assembled devotees, right? Nanda Maharaj, all of his friends, Krishna's friends, the courtyard is filled with the inhabitants of Braj. And the devotees become so immersed in hearing this recitation, which is Shabda Brahman, right? And we're constantly told that Krishna is eternal, his Dham is eternal, his name is eternal, they're all non-different, his pastimes are eternal, they're all non-different. When they recite the pastimes, the devotees there are immersed in meditation and witnessing those pastimes. They're there. And so they become so absorbed that sometimes at the end, especially some particularly, maybe like a pastime of separation, or a pastime where Krishna is fighting a terrible demon. And then at the end, Snigdhakant or Madhukant will say, but Nanda Maharaj, behold, don't worry, your son, he's sitting right next to you, he's right there. And they go, oh, they were there. And when the gopis are in separation, or any great devotee in separation, what does that do? It causes them to remember Krishna and all the ways in which they had pastimes with him, and they're associating with him. This is described in a way to help us appreciate the power of separation and the difference of meditation in purified consciousness and praying, that the association by separation, viraha, meaning a special kind of meeting, means the difference is that when we are engaged, or when they're engaged with Krishna directly, they're engaged in a particular pastime in a particular way, under particular conditions, in a particular place, particular, environment. But when they're in separation, all the different times that they were with Krishna and all the different ways may come in the heart simultaneously like a flood. And the memory is so full, so broad, so vast, and the ecstasies and the joy experienced in that is so overwhelming that sometimes it's said that the joy and separation can be more powerful than that of meeting. Right? At the same time, it's also, someone might say, well, then why wouldn't they want to always be in separation? Right? But anybody who understands the nature of love and praying would never want Radha and Krishna to always be separated. Of course you want them to meet. But the special kind of meeting they get after the separation, that joy exceeds everything that they had experienced in separation. Right? And then, once again, they may become separated, and then everything that they had done before and all the yearning and hankering creates a kind of intensity of love which exceeds everything that they'd had before. And then again they meet, and that joy exceeds that. So meeting and separation are two necessary components for the ever-expanding joy of prema. Now we talk about it, but really we can't understand it. we're not even licking the jar of honey, right? We might be seeing that jar of honey from a great distance, wondering what it's like to lick the outside of the jar. I mean, we have some words we can repeat, but by repeating them as we've heard them and yearning for it, something will slowly come, right? Because it's that hankering, awakening that hankering, which is going to create a pathway for us for this entrance into Rag Marg, which we all aspire for, right? Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavatamati Kriyatam Yadikato Pilabdyate Tattara Lolyam Apimuyam Ekalam Janmakoti Sukratayana Labhyate. Ramananda Roy, after describing all the different stages leading up to Prem, and finally, when Mahaprabhu's becoming satisfied, oh, now you're speaking of something that I wanted to hear. He talks first about Prem in the way that it's experienced in Vaikuntha, with regulations and guidelines and rules, and then he talks about spontaneous love, Rag Marg, right? And he says the only way to get that is by great greed to obtain it. And it can't be done just by Vaidhi Bhakti, by following the rules and regulations. You have to develop an internal, deep desire for it. You have to hanker and yearn for it. Tattara lolyam, apimulyam ekalam. Only one way to get it, lolyam, greed, right? And even if you do janmakoti sukratayana labhyate, unlimited numbers of pious, spiritually pious acts, regulative devotional service for thousands of lifetimes. Without greed, Rag Marg doesn't come. So how do we get the greed? We get the greed by hearing from authoritative sources about Krishna's beautiful pastimes, and in this case about his opulence and all, because that is the foundation, so we don't become prakrita sahajas. We should never misconceive and misconstrue Krishna's pastimes to be material in any way, right? So these prayers by the demigods as a preface for his appearance and subsequent pastimes. Right? So, Krishna is truth always, past, present, and future. In the material world, everything is being controlled by supreme time in the course of past, present, and future. But before the creation, Krishna was existing, and when there is creation, everything is resting in Krishna, and when this creation is finished, Krishna will remain. Therefore, he is the absolute truth in all circumstances. If there is any truth within this material world, it emanates from the supreme truth, Krishna. If there is any opulence within this material world, the cause of the opulence is Krishna. If there is any reputation within this material world, the cause of the reputation is Krishna. And Krishna gives a summarized explanation of all of this to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, right? In the Vibhuti, describing his opulences, his powers, all of these. If there is any strength in the material world, the cause of such strength is Krishna. If there is any wisdom and education within this material world, the cause of such wisdom and education is Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is the source of all relative truths. So that's something very important and very helpful to keep in mind as we're progressing on this path of bhakti. We want to take advantage of education, of truth, of knowledge, strength, so we can do our seva, right? All of these opulences, we use them in the service of the Lord, but we should never become bewildered thinking that these are ours, right? Oh, I am so intelligent. Oh, I am so strong. I am so handsome. I sing so beautifully. Everyone's attracted to me. I have so much charisma. These are just tiny atomic representations of the full inherent power of the soul, of the purified soul. We have no idea what we're capable of. But even that is just a tiny, 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 less than an atom of the opulences of Krishna himself, right? And all of those come from him. Just like the drop of seawater contains, in minute degree, everything that the ocean has, but the tiny drop could never be compared to the ocean in quality and magnitude, right? In quality, yes, but in magnitude, no. This material world is composed of 5 principal elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And all such elements are emanations from Krishna. Sometimes when scientists hear that, they say, oh, this is so unsophisticated approach to understanding the makeup of the world. We know there are at least 116 elements. Well, in Vedic culture, they knew the breakdown of all these different elements. They were conversant with chemistry, right? Gold, iron, silver, all the different components of earth. But what this is a way of understanding the essential qualities of creation in relationship to our capacity to perceive and interact with them, right? Earth is the source of fragrance, and it also within that we have the sense organ and the quality of smell, right? Water has taste, fire has form, air has touch, ether has sound, and this is the way that the senses of all living entities interact. So it's a simplistic way of describing how the living entity becomes embodied and covered and interacts with the creation. These are the fundamental foundation of all creation. And of course it expands in infinite complexity, right? And there are further descriptions of that, all the way down to the atom, the tiniest form or aspect, and including also all the different varieties of energetic emanations that come from the Lord. So, the material scientists accept these 5 primary elements as the cause of the material manifestation. But the elements in their gross and subtle states are produced by Krishna. The living entities who are working within this material world are products of his marginal potency. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that the whole manifestation is a combination of 2 kinds of energies of Krishna: the superior energy and the inferior energy. Right? The living entities are the superior energy, and the dead material elements are his inferior energy. In its dormant stage, everything remains in Krishna. Right? So we have those: Bhumir, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kamano, Buddha, Evacha, Ahankara, Ahankara, Yatma, Prakritam, Hridi, Sadyate. Right. And then Aparayam, Tastan, Yam, Prakritim, Vidi, Meparam, Jiva Bhuta, Mahabaho, Yayitam, Dayate Jagat. So Krishna says the gross elements, the subtle elements, and then above all of that is the jiva, right? That living entity, separate, different from the material. He calls it a superior energy, but his energy. The demigods continue to offer their respectful prayers unto the supreme form of the personality of Godhead Krishna by analytical study of the material manifestation. What is this material manifestation? It is just like a tree. A tree stands on the ground. Similarly, the tree of the material manifestation is standing on the ground of material nature. This material manifestation is compared to a tree because a tree is ultimately cut off in due course of time. A tree is called vriksha. Vriksha means that thing which will be ultimately cut off. Wow. Therefore, this tree of the material manifestation cannot be accepted as the ultimate truth because it is influenced by time. But Krishna's body is eternal. He existed before the material manifestation. He is existing while the material manifestation is continuing, and when it will be dissolved, he will continue to exist. Therefore, only Krishna can be accepted as the absolute truth. And in the Bhagavad Purana, that process of creation, step by step, is described, as well as the dissolution, right? From the gradual unfolding of the material elements from a dormant state to a subtle state of manifestation, from pradhan to mahat tattva, and then by the influence of the modes of nature and time, Krishna's energy, then each of the different elements, along with their sense organs and the objects of the senses, all the subtle forms of all these ingredients for creation are existed. Lord Brahma is given all of that and said, make something out of it all. And then under the guidance of the Lord, he becomes the contractor, right? The Lord says, okay, here's the blueprint, here are the plans, here's the ingredients in subtle form. Now create the planets, create the various forms for all the living entities, and they will enter into these things, take birth, and this universe will go on, right? So, and all that coming from Garbhodakshay Vishnu, who's coming from Karnadakshay Vishnu, who's coming from Mahasankarshan, who's coming from Mula Sankarshan, who's coming from Baladev, who's coming from Krishna, right? So the Katha Upanishad also cites this example of the tree of the material manifestation standing on the ground of material nature. This tree has two kinds of fruits, distress and happiness. Those who are living in the tree of the body are just like two birds. One is the localized aspect of Krishna known as the Paramatma, and the other bird is the living entity, us. So we're in this body like a tree, right? Krishna's there with us in the form of Supersoul. The living entity is eating the fruits of this material manifestation. The body manifests, and all the fruits that we're meant to experience, both good and bad, this is our prarabdha karma, our fully matured karma from so many different lifetimes, right? And so sometimes he eats the fruit of happiness, and sometimes he eats the fruit of distress. But the other bird is not interested in eating the fruit of distress or happiness because he is self-satisfied. Paramatma is Atmaram, right? Self-satisfied. No need for any of that. And his job, Krishna never eats these fruits either. Krishna is a transcendental person. He only tastes love and loving exchange, right? This is what Krishna does. Why is that living entity there? Why is that Paramatma there? Paramatma is there to witness and thus to determine when we leave this body what the next one will be, but also to give inspiration at appropriate times. We can't see, we can't detect, we can't witness this Paramatma because we're covered by limited material senses, right? Not possible. But out of mercy, sometimes Paramatma will give some inspiration or even protection. Sometimes, people have said they're about to do something, across the street, and a voice said, don't do it. And they stopped, what? And then, vroom, a big truck comes by or something, right? Or, I should go over here, and then they find somebody in distress and they help them, And what is the source of the intelligence? Why do ants create such complex societies, right? Well, there's one kind of ant that they've got these big ones with jaws. They chop down all these leaves, and then these other ants take the leaves and grass, and they take it into the burrow or the ant colony, ant city, right? And then they use it to grow a special kind of fungus. They can't eat grass, they can't eat anything else, but they can eat this fungus. But if they eat too much of the fungus produces carbon dioxide, right? Which will kill them in that burrow. So somehow or other they construct this ingenious burrow with vents that allows the carbon dioxide to escape, and if wind goes by, it sends air down. So they've got this incredibly complicated, sophisticated situation that requires interaction on so many different levels for all these different things to happen. How did that happen? I mean, is that something that could happen by evolutionary chance? All these things could happen together, so all these interdependent things could happen? For chance to be the source of that, there are going to be so many different kinds of ants that grow up, live, and fail. But somehow or other, this one incredibly interacting, complex community evolved by what? By intelligence. Intelligence created that. And even those ants are being given direction. Right? So the witness, the source of intelligence, mataks matir jnanam apohanam cha. Right? God is always there. The Kathopanishad states that one bird on the tree of the body is eating the fruits, and the other bird is simply witnessing. The roots of this tree extend in three directions. This means that the root of the tree is the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Just as the tree's roots expand, so by association of the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, one expands his duration of material existence. The tastes of the fruits are of four kinds: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation. According to the different associations of the three modes of material nature, the living entities are tasting the different kinds of religiosity, different kinds of economic development, different kinds of sense gratification, and different kinds of liberation. Practically all material work is performed in ignorance. But because there are three qualities, sometimes the quality of ignorance is covered with goodness or passion. The taste of these material fruits is accepted through five senses. So just recap a little bit. He's saying that activities in this world are governed by and tasted by these four stages, these four functions: religion, economic development, sense gratification, liberation. These represent the stages of the living entity's pursuit of happiness. Veda culture is guided by the principles of universal dharma. Dharma are the universal laws under which the universe is created and how it operates, right? The rules of operation. It's like a complex machine. It requires certain kinds of things that you do to maintain it, to keep it going, and then it will produce the result that you want, right? So religion is the basic moral codes, guidelines for people in society, that if you do this, you're acting according to the will of the Lord, right? And from that, you will be able to get advancement in your goals and civilization, economic development, whatever that means for you. Your business will go better, your job goes better, your life, improves, and by that you'll be able to taste different kinds of enjoyment. But if in your pursuit and chasing material enjoyment, you come to understand, oh, this is temporary, not fulfilling, I want something more, then you may seek what's called liberation, and that takes so many different forms, right? All different religions speak to a higher ultimate goal beyond this immediate material realm that we live in. Some conceive of it as a heaven, where we all go back together, we reunite as a family, we're all living in this world again, but in an eternal liberated way with none of the unhappiness of this world. Christianity's like that, Mormonism is like that, Vikings thought that, right? Everybody thinks like that, pretty much, right? Where God comes in, they're not really sure. right? For the Vikings, God's sitting up on a throne in the big hall, and they're all feasting and drinking and enjoying with the virgin ladies, and they still get to fight, but they don't die. And Odin, the Lord, is just witnessing it all and cheering everybody on, right? Christians, they're not really sure what's going on. Somewhere beyond those pearly gates, God is there and Jesus is there. They're sitting on a throne side by side. And we're all happy together with our families again, reunited, right? Mormons have an idea of the same kind of thing. I don't want to get into it too much, but, the martyred Muslims, they get to go with, how many Vestal virgins do each of them get if they're martyred? Huh? 72. All right. I wonder what the Vestal virgins did to become that, what their reward is. They get to be with a martyr, I guess, I don't know.
They never specified whether they're male or female.
I guess it depends on their taste. So, but higher than that is the idea of complete liberation from the limitations of the material world. Sorry. We forgot about the Vedic version of that. Svarga, going to Svarga. They also have that. This is what I want. They're not interested in anything beyond that. They want to become mini gods themselves, right? And enjoy. So that's generally the impetus for pious activity for people, right? Do good and get good, right? But they only have a limited material perspective. But the Vedas will describe something way beyond that. The first stage of understanding that is Brahman. There is something beyond, a happiness beyond this. It's liberation from all the distress of the material world. Because admittedly, you see that, we can enjoy, but wherever there's enjoyment, there's also the counterpoint to that, which is unhappiness, distress, old age, disease. So no matter where you go in this material universe, higher or lower, these things are there. Even Lord Brahma has to die. But beyond that, there's a spiritual energy. You're a spirit, I'm a spirit. When we become free from everything material, like form, qualities, personality, thoughts, emotion, all of that, our pure spiritual nature will be liberated beyond all this, nirgun, nirvishesh, and we merge and become one with that great spiritual energy of ananda, happiness, Brahmananda. And there is a kind of ananda there, but it's very limited compared to even the higher stage of ananda, which is, the next stage is actually being able to envision and witness that Paramatma. And Gopakumar saw that when he ascended to the planets of the sages, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka. He was able to see these sages being able to sit in meditation and witness and see that form of the Lord in the heart. And that form of pleasure goes beyond the undifferentiated form of Brahman. But it's still not that high because there's no personal relationship. There's no exchange of love in that relationship. There's just the joy and the awe and reverence of seeing the form of the Lord, which is still quite extraordinary. But even beyond that, Bhagavan, right? Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti shabdite. Seeing the Lord in his supreme personal form and taking a spiritual body by which we can interact and render loving service, right? And even that has different stages. You can go to Vaikuntha and the preliminary stage for some persons is to go to Vaikuntha and be in a state of what's called Sukhaishvarya Tara, where you are experiencing the happiness of Vaikuntha, but you've not awakened actual prema for the Lord. You're free, you're in a spiritual form, you're in Vaikuntha, but you've not awakened deep affection, attachment, and love for the Lord. But it's understood that in that kind of environment and association, that will come. And then from that comes prema to Lord Narayan, but that prema is invested with such a sense of his grandeur and opulence, and it's very restricted. You can only see him at certain times. In the evening, Gopakumar saw that he couldn't be with Lord Narayan in the evening, because that's when Lakshmi takes him in the palace and no one's allowed to come. She renders personal service from that time on. You don't get to do that. And you don't get to eat with him. He eats alone with her. You don't get to joke with him. That's not part of the script, right? But he did experience tremendous joy and happiness whenever he could see him. And some had some personal service. Some could fan him a little bit. Some could be gatekeepers. Certain things were there, but not so expansive, right? The quality of service. And then you can ascend to places like Ayodhya. Now the opportunity for service and intimacy expands much more greatly because Lord Ram becomes more human-like. But it's still very rigid. There's still very defined rules and regulations of what you can and cannot do. But still there's much greater intimacy, and there's an awakening of moods like real servitude with mamata, my Lord, and that can control the Lord to some extent, like Hanuman. And even some inclination of friendship, and vatsalya, I have parents, right? And I have a wife, right? The Lord has a wife, and so many different kinds of activities come into play there. And we see Lord Ram's activities in this world, they're very attractive to people. And it's so superior to the opportunities that are there in Vaikuntha. But then higher than that, then we come to what? We come to Dwarka and Mathura, and then Krishna manifests far more opportunities for service, much more diversity in service, much more complete is the friendship. Right? Arjun and others, his brothers and others like Satyaki and others, they can relate with Krishna as a friend much more intimately. There's still awareness of his godhood, but sometimes friendship becomes very potent. He has queens, he has wives, his parents are there, right? Servants, so much more variety. The city that they live in, so extraordinary and wonderful. But even that, when Gopakumar was there, he found that it was still not as complete as what he was hankering for, until Uddhava told him, go to Braj, and told him how to go to Braj. And there, the intimacy of Krishna, of being with him, without the barrier that's created by knowing that he's God, he's just my friend. And then I can serve, because to get into Braj, that you have to have such pure love, unafflicted by any personal selfish interest. Just whatever I do, I just want Krishna to be happy. I'm his friend, so as a friend acts, I can act in every way as a friend to make him happy. And then the opportunities are wide open, wide open. What to speak of his mother and father, and what to speak of the gopis. So talking about those stages, beyond that liberation is what the Bhagavatam in this 10th canto is going to show. So let's see, where did I leave off? Okay. Whoops. So the taste, tasting different things. Practically all material work is performed in ignorance, but because there are three qualities, sometimes the quality of ignorance is covered with goodness or passion. Right, the modes of nature are always competing for supremacy. And so even in the darkest times, when tamagun reigns, as it does often more and more in modern civilization, under right circumstances, sattva-gun will come, and sattva-gun always prevails. If you live a life of sattva, or aspiring for Shuddha sattva, you'll always be freed from the afflictions of ignorance. The taste of these material fruits is accepted through 5 senses. The 5 sense organs, The 5 sense organs through which knowledge is acquired are subjected to 6 kinds of whips: lamentation, illusion, infirmity, death, hunger, and thirst. You ever experience any of those? Not you, right? I bet some of you are sitting there, hey, when's this class going to end? I want to take breakfast. I'm hungry. Lamentation, oh, God. Well, I wish I wasn't so tired. I wish I didn't have to be here in class, however that lamentation manifests. Illusion, infirmity, oh, I'm sick. I've got Lyme disease. This material body, or the material manifestation, is covered by 7 layers: skin, muscle, blood, marrow, bone, fat, and semen. The branches, each of these is more and more subtle. The branches of the tree are 8: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. There are 9 gates in this body: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 genital, and 1 rectum. And there are 10 kinds of internal air passing through the body: prana, apana, udana, vyana, samana, etc. The 2 birds seated in this tree, as explained above, are the living entity and the localized Supreme Personality of Godhead. The root cause of the material manifestation described here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself to take charge of the 3 qualities of the material world. Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness. Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Brahma, by the mode of passion, creates this manifestation. Lord Vishnu maintains this manifestation by the mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva annihilates it by the mode of ignorance. So that's why the Lord comes in his role. He's the maintainer and protector of the universe, because if the demons were allowed to full vent of their desires, the world would descend into such sinful activities, the reactions would burn it to ashes. So the Lord himself would directly appear, and through the agency of his great devotees will keep the world purified and protected. I asked Srila Narayan Maharaj one time, when I had first chance I had to talk to him one-to-one, alone, and, I wanted to give up my worldly life and enter into spiritual life, but I was so afraid. Okay, here I am now. How old was I then? 47. Okay, if I give it up now, and I join your institution, I was thinking, then what happens after you leave and your institution, if it dissolves, because they all do after the Acharya leaves, then what? Right now I got a good job, I'm making money, I'm going to retire, I'll have a nest egg, then I go to Vrindavan. But if I join you, what happens? Next. I said, what happens when you leave? I was a little worried about asking that question. Seems kind of rude. But I had to ask it. And he just said, there's always pure devotees on the earth. Always Mahabhagavats. In other words, if you want that association and guidance, it's always there. And he said, if it weren't, the earth would burn to ashes because of all the sinful activity that exists in the world. Those pure devotees, whom you see or don't see, the ones you don't see, just by their living and chanting, they purify the holy places of pilgrimage, and they preserve the earth by those unseen activities, right? So they're always there. So these are the agents of Lord Vishnu that maintain, right? And so the followers of Lord Shiva, those demons, are always doing crazy things. They're ignorance. And those empowered by passion, they're always running around trying to create stuff, right? Build this, build that, skyscrapers, canals, airplanes, whatever it is, spaceships. The whole creation ultimately rests in the Supreme Lord. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And when the whole manifestation is dissolved in its subtle form as his energy, it rests within his body. Right. So they're going to go on and do more prayers. Srila Prabhupada is nicely summarizing and explaining their prayers to us. Fundamental tattva. Right? So let's see. Let's stop here. We'll offer our obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, all the assembled devotees, our Guru Parampara, getting very ready for the Lord's appearance. The demigods are getting ready. They're praying. Are we getting ready? Are we praying? Are we getting excited? I'm getting worried. Because how are we going to put on this festival? Who's coming? We're going to have the rooms ready. We need more motive passion to finish those rooms. All right, anyway. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Stop here.